Okay, so welcome again to the aspirant and graduate admission and scholarship masterclass. Basically, what we are going to be doing with this is to find a way to support your overseas graduate admission and scholarship application, right? The essence is not just for you to get admitted, but it's for us to see how we can make your application very competitive, both for admission as well as scholarship. And the reason I'm emphasizing on this is because I've seen a whole lot of people who were able to get admitted into whatever program overseas, but they were not able to take that up because of funding. They can't afford the tuition. So the scholarship aspect of this is very, very important. And that is why this program is kind of important. We've seen people in other groups over the other sessions, previous session that we've had now, share their experience. Some people have made application for 3 years. They've each year they always get admitted into two or more universities. Some partial scholarships, some no scholarship at all. But they've not been able to take that up. So I think that explains the importance of having scholarship, right? And so that is what this particular program is about. So I'm going to start with, first I wanted us to, this is probably where we'll spend like 30 minutes. It's one slide, but I want us to have a conversation on that slide, which is going to basically help you understand the graduate journey. Because people think that their graduate journey begins when they decide, hey, I want to make application to London School of Economics, and then they start researching that school. People think that is when their graduate admission actually begins, but that is not true. That's not when the graduate admission begins. The graduate admission begins way, way, way at the point where you make a decision of what you want to study at undergraduate. Okay, and in some cases, even before that, right? So we are going to see the stages of that journey in one page. We'll spend some good amount of time walking through that. And after that, we'll then look at top 3 overseas graduate study destinations: US, Canada, and UK. It has always been those 3 countries that are top in terms of destination that students want to go and kind of study. We are going to be looking at what is unique about them, because sometimes the reason we've seen parents tell us this is why they want their kids to go to this country, or even students tell us this is why I want to go to this country. But there are other countries that kind of have more opportunity with respect to what they are looking for. So I think there is need for us to also share that with you. Of course, we won't be able to share all the countries of the world, that is more than 200 countries, but we should be able to share those top 3 destinations based on what you've also filled in your forms. We've also seen that most of you are also kind of inclined to traveling to those 3 destinations, right? And yeah, so have it at the back of your mind that you are on a journey of actually making that application. You are not just here to listen to me and then walk away. No, you are here to listen to me and then make that application as we go. All right. So here you see what we have here, which is the Aspiraline end-to-end pathway program that typically empowers students or graduates from helping them get clear clarity with their career to actually achieving that global admission and scholarship success. That's what this is about. That pathway is typically 4 things that happens within it. And like I did mention, it typically begins at the point where you have to set your career objective and then make the decision what program you want to go study. Okay. And here, the objective of career objective, which is the first thing you must do before you think about making that application is to help you define clear academic and career goals that actually align with your long-term aspiration and what the market is looking for. So there must be alignment between your aspiration and what the world is looking for. If the world is not looking to go back and start riding horses, you can't be making career plans that allows you to go and start studying horses. So you want to make sure that your career plan, the program you are going for, kind of aligns with what the world is actually looking out for. If you are going to US and you want to remain in US after your studies, then you want to make sure that whatever program that you are going for is a program that can create value, that has opportunity in that country or destination. So these are part of the things that, if for instance you come on the one-on-one program that we run at Aspiralin, will help you make this research, you know, try to look at the countries where you want to go to, compare them with your ambition and say, if you want to study business administration in a country like this, what are the sort of opportunities that you can get there? If you want to do a PhD in a country like this, what are the kind of opportunities that you would typically get there? And based on that, we can walk back to then start saying which universities, right, in those countries would typically make you stand out to pursue those opportunities. Because whether you like it or not, all universities are not equal. And sometimes the university you attended makes it easier for you to grab opportunities after school. So it's very, very important that you consider what type of university that you are actually going to, both on ranking, whether it's general ranking or your subject level ranking. Okay. Typically, what you be expected to do at this point is to first identify the target program and then the preferred countries. Subsequent three slides will give you clarity on those three top countries that I have talked about. But that is the first thing you need to determine. What program do I want to go for? And which top three countries might I be interested in? All right. So once you've gotten that, then the next thing is to then match your career goal with both the university and the program of interest at those universities. Okay. Because there are some universities that you might hear, Cambridge top university, but there is a particular program that Cambridge might not be the best in terms of the ranking of that particular program. So if you're the kind of person that really wants to get the best out of your career, you need to make sure that you don't prioritize general ranking over your program ranking. You need to go to the university that actually rank high in terms of your program. When I did my PhD at Cambridge, Cambridge chemistry department was ranking second best in the world. So even though I got into Oxford and MIT, at that point in time, Cambridge was ranking number one compared to the other two universities that I also got into. And so I have to go for Cambridge, even though Cambridge wasn't like second best ranked in the world as of then, although it was ranking top five, but it wasn't the best, it wasn't the second best at that point. Once you've done that, you need to then start looking at finalizing a list of target program in that particular country. Some people might say they want to apply to 50 universities. I prefer quality to quantity. And so when I make my application, I have to make sure that I do my research and then confirm those universities, those countries where I want to go to, what program I want to do, and then, of course, make sure that I understand what that program requires and ask myself, do I have what it takes to actually make it to this program? If the answer is yes, then I can begin my application. I will not begin my application until I've answered these questions. So, on that note, I think I'm going to pause here. Let's have a conversation on this, right? I'm going to try to remove the presentation. let's have a conversation on this career objective that we've just looked at. And maybe Elvis, we can start with you. What I would like you to share with us is, the what is it that you are looking for when it comes to your career? And this is mainly on your future aspiration, which is when you finish your master's, what do you want to do with that master's? Okay. And then two, what are the countries that you had in mind and why are you interested in going to those countries to do a master's?
All right. Good morning, Mr. David. Thank you for this class again because I was actually paying note and writing while you're speaking. So, first of all, it's Masters in Business Administration. So, I basically want to go into business full time. You get, but I need to still have this work for some of these very top companies. I think I'll get more opportunities from the US in terms of the business. Like now, that was what I was looking at. US or Canada, that these two top countries get. So now, but when it comes to the program, like I said, it's just masters in business that I'm going for, and then I haven't till now. Just now hearing from you in terms of what exactly do I need to, what kind of thing will retain me there after the program, after the master's program. So that is what I'm wrapping my mind around right now while you are teaching in this class. So, but yeah, it's business and then being able to work in some of these top firms in US and Canada. That is after my graduation.
Do you have a name of some of the top firms?
No, I don't yet.
Okay, but what would this top firm be doing? What sort of thing? Because every company out there does business, whether it's automobile, whatever it is, whether it's Facebook, they are all in business. And with your background, you can work anywhere, right? So are there fields that yeah, and I will tell you why I'm asking you that. Are there particular fields that you think you want to play into? And it's also fine if you don't have anything in mind at this point. But all of this conversation kind of begin to help you to think critically about these things.
Okay. The kind of product I'm looking to dive into or building at the end of the day is something that has to do with consumer products. Anything that has to do with directly connecting with consumers, like persons. Those are the kind of firms I would want to work into or build at the end of the day. So these are the things I would want to look into. Yeah. But I don't have any specific one in mind right now.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, I've taken notes of some things that you said. So let's come back to you. Let's go to Kelechi. Casey, you are going for PhD, right? Um, I think this question is even more valuable for you. It would be great to understand, what is it you want to do after your PhD, and why do you even want to do PhD, and what are the countries that you are looking to do that?
Okay.
So Elvis, just as Casey is typing his own response right there in the chat, let me tell you why this is very important. So you are not just asking for admission, right? That's not what the target is. The target is that you want to one get into the right school, and then two, you want to do that with funding. You don't want to do it like on a self-funded stuff. So the implication is that one, you need to come across to admission and scholarship committee as an exceptional student. And later we are going to see, we'll deep dive into that. And for you to come across as an exceptional student, there has to be a combination of three things. One, your present. Two, your past. Now, your past needs to combine both academic and non-academic profile. Your present needs to be show a manifestation of whatever has happened in the past and where that has gotten you to today. And then for your future, you need to tell us the problem that you are going to be solving. So if there is no problem you are solving, And I think like this week, I've had series of one-on-one conversations where people had, told me when I asked them, what do you want to do in future? And why do you want to do this? They just say, I want to play in this industry. I want to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is that they're saying. But the problem is that they fail to say this is the problem that they want to solve. They fail to always tell me that. And because of that, I don't see the conviction that the scholarship bodies usually look for that they could potentially use to convince them that they are exceptional, that there is a problem in the future they are trying to solve, and they believe that they've got that solution to deliver on that problem. So I don't see that. So I hear you in your case, Claire, business administration, US or Canada, that sounds clear. And after the master, I asked what next. You didn't mention that on the long term, you want to run your own business, but you need to start somewhere and probably start with top firms, those in product line, consumer, and all of that. So that is what your career ambition is. Your objective is to get a master's that gives you access to top firms. Okay, and you've already selected your program. You selected your country of destination. So that looks like your number one is almost done. But there is one thing you must make sure that you do in that number one to actually make this completely done. And that is tying your program to a problem and a solution. Because unless you do that, it will be very, very difficult for you to be able to convince graduate schools or even scholarship bodies that they should offer you scholarship. We'll look at that and talk a little bit more on that in details in subsequent pages. But then, once that is aligned, now you are kind of ready to start researching schools. Okay, because now you know that masters in business administration, are there schools that have masters in business administration programs that once you graduate, you have an increased chances of getting interview for job application? That will be the next thing that you ask. In the US and Canada, which schools have this program that once you graduate, it's very easy. Employers are the one looking for you. Of course, your CV gets you an interview, but your CV doesn't get you a job, right? That's the normal saying when you go to places like US, UK, Canada. So that then takes us to number two, where you now start asking, once you've identified those schools that can give you that opportunity or make it easier for you to reach your opportunity, you begin to then ask the question, what are these schools looking for in candidates that make it to that school? Are there scholarships that are available to go to that school, whether internally or externally? Once you've identified that, then you then begin to ask yourself, do you have the profile that these schools are looking for? Does your academic and professional profile, did they stand out that when someone read about you on paper, they definitely want to see you in person and shake your hand and have this real conversation about how you are thinking about the world around you? That then takes you to the number two, where you begin to then look at your academic profile optimization. If you are a first class material, you are almost 90% there, right? But these days, a lot of people make first class. If admission were to be on only those who make first class, then schools will still not be able to admit all first class candidates. All right. So, what that means is that in addition to your first class, in addition to your 2-1, if there are other ways that you can enhance your CGPA, then definitely you should be doing that. And some of the things that we typically advise folks to do is to take up some extra credits, some online qualification, right? It could be on Coursera, Udemy, wherever it is, Look for certifications, short certification. Some could be 1 month, could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, right? That you can do. This must be certification. So, what are these certifications? Like, the certification should not be talking about strengthening what you've done in the past, unless what you've done in the past is in line with what you want to do in the future. Okay. But if it's not, get certification that strengthens your position for the things you want to do in future. Let me give you an example. Let me assume that somebody studied electronic engineering at undergraduate level, but now they want to go do a master's in artificial intelligence. When they want to do their certification, they shouldn't be going to do certification in electronic engineering related courses. No, they should be doing certification that bring them closer to artificial intelligence. Okay, so that is how we typically recommend certification program. On top of the certification program, the next thing you want to make sure you do is the skills that you obtain from that certification, you must make an attempt to use it for an independent project, which typically, if you are under a spiral tutelage and the things that we do, will supervise you to actually carry out that independent study. So for those who are not science-based, neither tech or thereabouts, your independent study is even easier because at the end, the only thing you probably need is just to write up an article. You don't necessarily need to publish that article in international journal. It could be some column in newspapers. It could be even Medium. There's a platform called Medium where people can just write up a whole lot of articles and people interact with that. You can go there and share that your findings and share it across your social media platform and people read about it. That can become a point, a contribution to knowledge that you can use to support your graduate and scholarship application. So when the scholarship body begins to see attempts and things that you have done in reality in those areas, it begins to boost your application, place you much higher than any other person who might have scored made the same first class as you did. Okay, so with that, you can then begin to have that your academic profile is actually being optimized. So if you're a 2-2 or 2-1 person with those extra certification, you would have gotten at the bar, which means you might be able to do things that someone who has done a first class wouldn't be able to do because of the experience you've had, the certification, and the project that you've actually used it to carry. And independent, we call it independent project, because what that means is that you were able to do that without supervision. Although aspirantly, if you do it under us, we supervise you. But typically, it's called, and the way you present it to the graduate committee or to the admission committee is that you have done this without supervision. And when you are making a graduate application, what supervisors or what graduate lecturers, professors are looking for are students who can carry out research or studies of their own with little or no supervision. Okay, that's what they typically look out for. And so showing that already is a big bonus, telling them that definitely you are that right candidate. Okay, so before I move to professional profile enrichment, let me just take some of the things I'm seeing on the chat. Okay, Kelechi is saying, okay, my interest is in renewable energy engineering. I hope to contribute in solving problem of energy crisis by adopting various renewable energy sources. I plan to work briefly in the industry to gain more hands-on experience, then develop my own research institute. I believe Europe would aid me in actualizing this aim. Amazing. Okay, now, Casey, I'm going to take what you've given me here. Okay, looks like his internet has taken him out. Yeah, I think it's probably better I respond to what he's written when he's here. Let me take Elvis. He said, how or where do I achieve such certification for someone in a business field like me? There are a lot of programs on Coursera. And yeah, so this class is more of a practical thing. So let me look at Coursera. There are a lot of programs that you can get on Coursera. Even LinkedIn Learning has got a lot in there as well. But typically, if you go on this platform and just type just some search word business related programs. Again, when you do masters in business, you also need to think what specific interest in business do you have? It could be business intelligence that you are interested in, and let me take that actually. So I'm actually on Coursera and I've just typed business intelligence on the search bar, and there are a lot of courses on business intelligence. Okay, business intelligence is a technology driven. So that is it. You always need to also make sure that whatever you are doing is at intersection of technology and whatever it is, because these days technology is ruling the world. So you want to make sure that what you are venturing into is not something that is going to become outdated in the next 5 years or 10 years. It has to be something that is headed towards the future. Like so, the stuff that Kelechi just mentioned, renewable energy. Of course, you can see that even across Nigeria, like the only hope that a lot of people are having now to have power is like solar. That's renewable for you, right? But if you look deeper, you can also see that there are other challenges that solar has. It could be that at this point in time, it's not even affordable for some people, or it could be the long-term effect, the long-term environmental impact. There are a lot of things, different ways you can think about these things, right? People I know that when I wanted to think about postdoc before I changed my mind, one of the things I wanted to do was to look at how to generate electricity using bacteria. Okay, it was one of the research I was considering to do at MIT, right? So you need to go beyond what is on the periphery. And now that Kelechi is also here, I was trying to, say that what you have here on the energy of a thing is amazing, but it's very general. It's very generic. So when someone is asking you about what you want to do for your PhD, when you provide generic information like this, you don't convince them, right? A professor, if you meet a professor at a conference and you want to introduce yourself and introduce what you want to do and ask them if they have opportunity in their lab, and you tell them this is what you are interested in, renewable energy engineering, that's a very broad term, okay, for a PhD, right? You need to be very specific. You need to move into that renewable energy engineering and dissect it, understand the challenges, the problems you have within there. Be very specific. PhD is the opportunity for you to be specific with a problem and create a solution that changes that particular field. Okay, so there has to be a problem. Always think about it that you are out to solve a problem with whatever course that you want to do. Okay, so on Coursera, I'm seeing framing problem in data analytics, introduction to business intelligence tools, introduction to foundational concepts, and there's a whole lot of other things like this introduction to business intelligence tools. It's an amazing thing that you can, because today there is a whole lot of variables that controls what happens in the business world. And if you want to work for top firms, these are folks that makes use of data analytics to make daily decisions. Business decisions are not based on emotions. They are based on facts. They are based on business intelligence. So if you want to work at top firm, Elvis, then I think it makes sense for you to take some certification exam in business intelligence and understand what it is. There are tools that you might be using, you might be required to use for business intelligence. Power BI is one of them. You can even do another certification in that. right? Tableau is another one, another tool that folks use to carry out a whole lot of analysis. I can also see a course here called Gathering Stakeholder Insights for Business Intelligent Processes. So these are some of the things that you can actually do, and much more, okay, to kind of build yourself and put yourself in that pedestrian. Then on the side of renewable energy, Kelechi, you need to be very specific around what problem you think renewable energy is facing or energy industry as a whole. And you don't just stop at that problem because even with my eyes closed or me sleeping, I can tell you that general and generic problem that Africa or Nigeria is facing when it comes to energy security. Okay. But now, people are trying to actually solve that problem. So you need to figure out why it is that despite the attempts that a lot of people are making to solve the energy security, we are still where we are today. That would then lead you to what you want to do differently. How is yours different? How is this ingenuity that you are bringing to research, how is it going to revolutionize this solution that we're trying to build for centuries or even for decades? So once you are able to answer that question, then you can then begin to authoritatively define why you have an exceptional solution to energy security that you can potentially bring to the table. Okay. So now that we've then understood, this career objective setting, program selection, and the academic profile optimization aspect of things, let's then look at the professional aspect of things. Unlike in Nigeria, if you want to do a master's, undergraduate, PhD, whatever program you want to do, emphasis is always on your academic qualification. Nobody seems to care about what you are or what you do outside the classroom. And so this is where the distinction between how the education system you have across Africa comes in when you compare them with Western education. In the West, people understand that a well-rounded student needs to be successful both inside the class and outside the classroom. And outside the classroom, you need to be able to tell them what you can do. Is it leadership? Leadership is not necessarily an elective leadership position. It could be you taking initiative and leading a research, leading a team, leading a group of friends to deliver on certain tasks. Those are examples of leadership. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're a class captain that was elected into the position, or you're a student union government president, or thereabouts. There are different ways you can show leadership. There's a saying that the best attestation of leadership is actually what you do on a daily basis to lead yourself. So you need to understand that leadership is not all about those elected positions, and then begin to take lead in things that you found yourself, right? So that's one of those things you can do outside the classroom. Then there's also the extracurricular. There are a lot of extracurricular like sports, especially in the US. US pays so much emphasis on sports because they believe in the unity that sports could bring, right? And they believe that for you to succeed in sports, people usually make, reference to that. Do you have that sportsmanship? Because for you to succeed in sports, you need to play team. Another way of describing the kind of traits that sports could instill in you is understanding the meaning of teamwork. Okay, in football, you can there are 11-man team. One person, if you leave one person in that, no matter even if it's just Messi and Ronaldo on one team, and then the other 11, like both of them won't even be able to score a goal. Their legs won't even touch ball. So there is this sense of team spirit that sporting events gives to you. And that's why US typically play a whole lot of emphasis on sports activity. What sports do you play? And all of that. And then, of course, this sense of articulation that sports also provide to you. Whether it's gymnastic, whether it's a two table tennis of a thing, you need strategy, you need expectation, you need to plan to engage your opponent. So there is something that sports kind of help to build in you. All right. And so when you do that unknowingly, you build the subconscious consciousness of you, of yourself, that can then begin to help you in real world experiences that you drive. So that's the reason these schools also pay a whole lot of attention in extracurriculars. Then you take it a step further. The experience you've had through internship in a professional setting, because the school is trying to prepare you to go into the world and make impact. So schools will typically also appreciate people who have been out of school for some moment and have done something in the real world and are now coming back to school. So there are two things that this gives them. It shows them that one, you have a real world experience that you can bring into the classroom to even enrich the learning in the classroom and contribute to conversations that are happening. I know that in some cases across African schools, some students might not understand what it means to actually have a debate and have conversation in classrooms, in a graduate classroom with your lecturer. So when lecturers walk into the class, they're not typically walking in because they want to come and show you that they know more than you. They are coming in to guide conversations that happen in classroom, especially those non-science graduate program. Like in business, as Elvis is going for. Your lecturer is going to walk in and then just read a headline of what is a business headline in Times, in Financial Times. And then the entire classroom will start debating on the implication of that for a particular company. Okay. So if you already have some business world experience, you tend to bring this enriched experience into the conversation. And that is the reason they value people who have got these experiences. So if you have those internship experience or even real full-time, part-time contract, volunteer experience in a professional setting in the business world, that kind of counts a whole lot. And you will be able to bring it into your SOP when you are writing them. And then you move a step closer on same professional profile enrichment is the community service and the volunteering services aspect of things, right? Because the honest truth is that if the world were to ride on payment for every single services that is done, a lot of people will still be in abject poverty than we currently experience today. And so, in making the world a better place, you need to sometimes devote your precious time for the betterment of other people. Scholarship bodies are looking for instances that you've demonstrated that when you do things, you actually look beyond yourself. You look beyond yourself to then see the impact of the things that you are doing on the people that are around you. Okay. So that means that it could even be, the decisions you make on a daily basis, right? You consider other people. What is your driving force to when you make decision on the things that you do? Scholarship bodies, because they want to give you something for free, and in most cases, in fact, no scholarship is going to ask you come back and pay. If they ask you come back and pay, it's no longer scholarship, then it's a loan, right? So as far as they are giving you the scholarship and no one is asking you to come back and make payments, they want to understand that if I give you this scholarship and you succeed, what change can you make? They want to understand that giving you a scholarship is actually trying to multiply the value that they themselves can create. Because if you become successful and through you, 10 other people can become successful indirectly, not through that scholarship. It simply means that directly they might have made you successful, by granting you that scholarship, but indirectly, that success story that they started in your head has now multiplied into 10 other success story. So that is what they are looking for. And this success story doesn't necessarily need to be in you giving people money. The success story could even be in millions. That the success, your success, could impact millions. And how is that possible? If you are successful with innovation and you create something that a lot of people are now using in a way that it makes their life better, that's a success story, right? And this time around, indirectly, you've built something that the world is using. Imagine the person that created internet. Look at how internet has made our world today. That today you and I, we are using someone's invention. Now imagine that that person didn't invent this internet. All of these things that we are doing are things that God knows how we'll be dealing with them. Now, if that person was supported by a scholarship to go to a university where they learned whatever concepts that allowed them to be able to think through research to then found this internet concept today, you can see the impact of whoever supported that unique human to go to university to learn this. So that is multiplication of value with respect to innovation. It could be with respect to community service. It could be with respect to research. It could be with respect to a whole lot of things. But there has to be a way of showing that particular multiplication. And that is where your community services and supporting volunteering activities for non-governmental organizations kind of come to play, right? And then you need to then be able to articulate all of this in an impact-driven way in your CV. I have seen countless of CVs, hundreds, if not in their thousands, between 2017 and today. Every year I help people review, I see loads of CVs. And something has become very evident that people just make generic CV, where, for instance, imagine that you were an intern or you had a job where you are an associate. What you will see, some of them will just give you the job name and nothing else. Those who will try to put bullet points will just provide roles and responsibility of the job without mentioning the impact they themselves made while on the job. I'm very sure that if you want to recount about Nigerian past presidents, there are a lot of people who have answered the name president. But the point is, imagine you create a new country today and you were asked to go back and use previous presidents of Nigeria as the president of this your personal country. Who would you choose? You wouldn't just choose anybody because they were once a president. You want to look at their track record. You want to look at the impact they made while they were president to make your decision. So those are the things that you should be able to capture in your CV, those impacts. And where possible, you need to quantify this impact. It needs to make that sense to you. So when you have your CV, where all you have there is your description of what the role entails, you simply have not make any difference. Okay. In fact, people don't typically read that sort of CV. They read your first experience, second experience, the same thing, they dump it. There's nothing interesting. Once you tell me you are a business analyst, I know what business analysts do. So there's no need trying to repeat roles and responsibility of business analysts. Your CV. If you have to, you just have to be the first bullet point that tells you this is what this role entails. Just in case the person who is reviewing your CV might not actually know what the role entails. But when you describe roles and responsibilities under your CV, whether I know what the role entails or not, I know that's what you're describing. You're not telling me what you've done. And in some cases, what people might do is to then personalize the roles and responsibility. Even with that, it's still not being presented in a way
that make me to understand that, yeah, you could make a difference. If I have such a role and I need to hire someone, you are the right person I should be hiring. So you need to make sure that you add those impacts, those difference that you've made, and quantify them where possible. All right. And then, of course, these experiences from leadership, internship, volunteering, all of these are the things that you then bring into your interview, your graduate interview, when the time comes. Okay. So, that being said, again, like I did mention, this is going to be very interactive. I think this morning section is 2 hours, so we still have like 50 minutes to go, hopefully. Um, Let me just go back and circle around the room so that we have another conversation on maybe professional profile enrichment and the academic profile optimization. So let me see what we have in the room. Um, Again, Casey, you can use the chat box, and Lucky, I'm not directing these questions to you because I understand why you are here, but please feel free to contribute, ask questions, so that I can also, respond to that. You can use the chat. You can unmute your mic if at any point you have anything to say. But let me use the folks who are in the forefront of actually making the application to kind of build up what we set the conversation on. Does that make sense, Lucky? All right. So Elvis, so back to you again. In terms of professional, in terms of your academic, I think you already asked the question on the certification. So maybe we can look at your professional profile. Um, are there things that you think you've done in the past with respect to the professional profile thing that could potentially support your graduate application?
Yeah. Now you started diving deep into this. Then I think I started thinking in the past, and while I was trying to submit the CV, which aspirant asked us to submit, so I was going through everything. Then I started remembering that okay, even the world is moving into the blockchain and technology side. I think that's also another aspect of the world that has not yet been really tapped. It hasn't gotten any mass adoption. And in terms of where our country is, I feel like our payment structure, our payment system is still really messed up. The way both women and men do business transactions and banks to banks and person to person transaction is really difficult right now. I think sometimes we all know the story, but what I'm trying to say is the fact that I'm reading to blockchain and understanding how blockchain works and how the blockchain world works, I'm thinking of a path now how I could use that experiences I've had for years now, almost 5 years right now, being on blockchain and Web3 technology to channel that same energy into this business and see what I could achieve at the end of the day, going into the US as well to study this side of the market. So that is one. Then secondly, of course, I worked as a project manager for my health integra for some while, so I got some certain experiences in terms of working with persons, especially in this age of digital things where everybody's trying to communicate with persons that are not close to you. Everybody's trying to work. So it's a little bit difficult getting persons together. So I think I got some experience in terms of project management. And also I've worked for an automobile company before in the past where I got to have this customer relationship thing, how to get customers better, how to make them stay loyal and stuff like that. I've worked for that thing before in the past. Then yeah, I actually had that. The first one was I actually had a salon in the past where I managed 2 employees that worked for me. So I think these are the experiences I've had so far. So I think if I put all these things together, I could still channel it into this payment system of the way Nigeria is and see how to solve a problem there.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, so one thing to just add in what you've said, when you want to tell this story, whether in application, it would be great to look at measurable impact. You've been in the blockchain Web3 space for 5 years. You've seen that there's opportunity to build solutions to address African priority, whatever it is. But in that 5 year period, you need to be able to quantify some impact that you have made. That impact could be bringing people together to tell them about how blockchain works and how that have actually empowered some of those people, right? Um, it could be, you know, building a solution if you've built one, but if you've not, even if it's just you passing that messaging or building something yourself, doing something without technology, you should be able to talk through the impact. Then the project that you've managed, the places that you've entered and worked on, it's not enough to just say, I've done XYZ, I've worked at this place. When it comes to your CV, you need to think through the impact that you've made. And the best way to usually think about impact is not maybe to stand and say, okay, where are those numbers? The impact might not necessarily be numbers. The impact might not be seen unless you compute them. Because, for instance, I have a student I was supporting, and when we have our first strategic first counseling or some sort of session, in fact, she was like, I'm not, and there's nothing special about me. I don't have any experience. I don't have. But when we started having that conversation, and me pushing her, asking her very micro questions that allowed her to bring in a lot of things. To the point we even realized how much she had supported her mom's business, right? She goes to this shop somewhere in Aba, and the people who are there are just a bit all over the place. Things are not regulated, things are not structured. She puts structure into that, help her mom build some Excel that she then uses to record the people who are buying and selling, and that help them every day. Just your odds equal to compute how much you've sold. That sort of micro automation that changed the look of the business, right? So that is huge impact. That sort of thing could be, imagine, ask yourself, if you weren't there, what would have happened? So impact is not all about the things that I have done. What was the output? You might not see the output, but you can do a reverse engineering and ask, if I wasn't there to do this, what would have happened? So that's another way to think about impact, right? And then you see that visibility because, yeah, if you weren't there and there was no one to do it, whatever it is that you are thinking about or that you've done will become like really, really um, present and visible to you to see. Okay, so then that takes us to the last part, which is now where the admission and scholarship application comes in. At Aspirale, what we typically do, we guide students from 1 to 3. Then at 4, what we do in 4 is to help them prepare the application material. We don't move into the nitty-gritty of submitting the application, unless the student wants that. But typically, and that's why you might know there are a lot of these agents, education consultants across Nigeria that you can go to them and they will help you make the application for free, but you have to produce the documents yourself. You send them your CV, send them your essays, whatever it is, and they help you submit those applications. And they won't charge you. Some of them might, but majority of them will not charge you. And that's because they have some sort of partnership with schools that when you eventually, pay your tuition, then themselves then kind of get some sort of commission, right? So it's a fair win so that the students upfront, you don't pay for something that you wouldn't definitely take up. In case your admission doesn't work, you wouldn't like feel like this agent has collected this money from you and admission didn't work. I think that's why, to be on a safe side, majority of them wouldn't want to collect any money. And what that also means is that if you are a student that is looking for scholarship, you might not typically be customer to this agent, right? Because if the school you are going to offers you scholarship, then they wouldn't necessarily pay the agent any commission. Okay. Unless the scholarship you have is coming externally. If it's external scholarship, then once that external body pays the university, the agents still get their commission. Okay. So some of the partnership that we are now having with agents is to help them improve their own revenue. Because what then happens is that these folks who are looking for scholarship comes to them, but they are not able to support them because they only support those who can pay for their tuition. All right. But we are now partnering with those agents. We have a partner, Edu Comfort Service in Ibadan, for instance, that we are partnering with. In fact, Edu Comfort, as of last week, had sent us almost a total of 12 students to support for this scholarship program. And what we do, we go with them from 1 to 4, right? Because this we charge for this, like we charge big for this kind of experience, right? And they get their own percentage as agents. I'm just explaining this so you know how this works. They get their own percentage. Let's say that the student pays like 100 naira. They get 10% of that. So that means we give them 10 naira and we take 90 naira for our operational costs and everything, that sort of thing. So that's one commission, extra commission for them. Then two, once we are done preparing the students, I'm helping them prepare the material. The students now take the material and go back to those agents. And those agents, because this is what they do best. They understand every school, they understand what you need and all of that. They then use that expertise to use that application to then submit, right? So under this condition, the external scholarship that we support the student to apply to, once that goes through, now that scholarship body is able to pay for the tuition of the students. And what that then means is that for this agent, they will typically still get their full commission from the school because the external scholarship is funding the student. And they also get their commission from us, right? And if it's a student that just came on their own, we will be able to provide this material which they can use, walk away and make this application themselves if they want. If they want us, end to end, to then help them actually submit that application, they can also, tell us which university. And that is why we don't typically partner with a specific university for the sake of that commission. The universities that we partner with them to identify scholarship that they have and how the eligibility for those scholarships are. On our platform that we are building now, we have a product we call Scholar Match. It's a scholarship matching platform, and currently it has over 3,000 scholarships right on it. And when a student typically create their profile, upload their CV, share their experience, there's another product we call Atlas. If you complete Atlas, where you do both psychometric evaluation, you input your internship experience, all of that, the scholarship matching engine picks your profile from there and then suggest scholarship that your profile matches. And it will tell you the percentage of that match and why it feels that this is actually your match. And the platform will also help you to generate your scholarship essay or any essay that that particular scholarship is looking out for. So that's something that we are building, which agents, direct students can all kind of use, right? For agents, we have an account for agents to register their own students on the platform. So you have a student who comes to you and they say they need scholarship. Tell them, okay, we can support you, but clearly this is how it is. You get their credentials, you come online, you register them, they make payment. Then automatically, once they make payment, the agent gets a commission on that platform of whatever it is that they've paid, right? So that's typically how what we're trying to build. And so for you on this, I think once you've done this 1, 2, 3, and now you are on 4, you need to then think through how to execute a high impact application that secure you not just admission, but funding offers. Okay. It must be tailored. And we are going to deep dive into those documents that you're going to be using, the CV, the SOP, the scholarship essays. We'll take them one after the other and see what we have there. And then once you've submitted, the next thing will be for you to prepare for your interview. So for want of time, we have 33 minutes to go. I will just quickly run through some of those top destinations that I did mention and why students or parents kind of excited about some of them. There was somebody I spoke to that was saying they wanted to go to UK, and the reason they wanted to go to UK is that they want, as they are finishing their PhD, they are getting permanent residence. So this is their own belief that 4 years, 5 years of PhD, whatever, in the UK, after that, they spend maybe 1 or 2 years and they get permanent residence. But that's not true. Because in the UK system, if what is most important for a student is permanent residence, then UK is not the place to go to. Because in UK, you need to finish your studies and start working. It's when you start working that your residency actually starts counting, not while you are still in the university. The tier 4 visa doesn't put you on track to permanent residence. If it does, a lot of people will still even, I've seen people who did PhD 5 years in UK. They would have gotten their permanent residence immediately. So what that means that if that permanent residence is of a thing and you don't really care which country, then something like Canada is the right place to start thinking about it, not UK. Okay. But some of the things that people look out for when they want to choose a destination, like the US, is the fact that it's a globally respected and future-focused country. It values the diploma or whatever certification you get from a US university is very much valued. They provide some flexibility in their learning pathway and have a lot of courses that they offer you. And these courses are also your skill-based and student-centered courses. Then when you think about Canada, decent world class, excellent career prospects. When you graduate, your starting salary is something in the vicinity of $70,000 and above. If you convert that to Nigerian currency, you know what that gives you. And the pathway to permanent resident, Canada is probably the easiest, even with their tightening of immigration right now. It's still one of the easiest once you get into the country. You can even get a permanent residence while outside the country. The multicultural system you have there, the fact that higher education is also more affordable in Canada compared to places like you. And then you look at UK, similar world class global education, globally recognized qualifications, and faster degree completion. Canada and US, their masters are 2 years, but in UK is 1 year, right? So someone, their undergraduate is 3 years. In the US is 4 years. In Nigeria is 4 years. So you can see that if you are studying undergraduate in Nigeria for 4 years, by the time you finish, your peer who started at the same time with you in the UK has completed both undergraduate and masters. So if faster route is something that is of relevance to you, then UK become um, a destination for you. And of course, the diverse international community, probably because they colonize a whole lot of people. But yeah, they have a very rich, diverse community out there. And the post work opportunity as well. For undergraduate and masters, 2 years, although from next year ending, that will be cut to 18 months. But PhD still remains 3 years. So you get, because before now, once you finish school in the US, in the UK, you have 4 months to get job. If you don't succeed in that, you leave the country. But right now, when you finish, kind of get a 2 year visa, graduate visa, that allows you to kind of settle down, find a job that sponsors your visa and all that. The same thing for your masters. Okay, so that being said, in the next 30 minutes, I would love to go through um, the particulars of your application, right? The particulars of your application. And for this morning, we will just focus only on the CV. Later, we'll talk about when we come back in the afternoon at 3 p.m. We'll then dive deep into your SOP as well as your scholarship ACEs. Okay. You've been given access to, to some documents, some folder, and in there, you will see all manner of document that can support you. And you will continue to have access to that in the next 1 year. Okay, so no one is going to take that access from you. So you're going to see CV guide. I've uploaded the CV guide I got from Cambridge University, both the one for undergraduate and masters, as well as the one for PhD and postdocs. So you see that giving guidance, how to structure your CV, how to write them in with bullet points, how to highlight your strengths and all of that right in the CV. It's very, very important because when you make this application, nobody is going to call you to ask for clarifications. So you want to make sure that you've presented your CV in a way that is very clear for someone to understand your strengths and that you've showcased those strengths in, in a way, in an exceptional way that makes someone to actually see your profile as an exceptional profile. Of course, do not lie in your CV because if you do, when you come for your interview, the lies you told in your CV will typically manifest. I don't know for other people, but I've never interviewed someone who lied on a CV without knowing that they did. Because the way they say things, you will know. Try to push them to give you specific examples. Even if they succeed in doing that, reframe that question in a different way that will allow them to say the same thing. They will say something completely different. Okay. So it's always very easy. Some of these people who sit on this board, they have extensive experience interviewing candidates. So they know when you are bluffing and when you are making up things. Okay. So you need to be exceptionally good at this state to be able to kind of navigate your way if you are telling a lie. However, you must be able to, because sometimes it looks as if there's a thin line between selling yourself and actually telling a lie in your CV. Let me give you an example. I have someone who had an informal experience supporting their dad because the dad was a trader. Now, what we did was in the CV, he never brought that into the CV. And what that meant was that the CV was so empty without any real world experience. But this guy has had real measurable impact supporting the dad business. The dad business, fortunately, was a registered business with CSC. So why would I not bring such a thing in the CV? If I founded a startup today, in quotes, I can call it a self-owned business. Whether I register it as a limited liability company, as long as there is no funding, it's a one-man business sort of thing. Okay, it's my business, but I have that in my CV, right? That I have founded a business, a startup company. So why wouldn't you have a personal business you founded, irrespective of what you're selling? All you need to do is find a way to formalize it. All right. So what we did was to call him the branch manager for his dad's business. And then we were able to bring his roles and responsibility, coordinating. They have all of these apprentices that support the business. He manages them, he coordinates them. He coordinates supply, he coordinates customers, a lot of things that he does. And I asked him, okay, what impact? He felt like the business, the things that he does there are just business as usual. So whether he's there or not there, it's exactly the same thing. It doesn't really matter, right? But when we started digging deep, we realized that his presence in that business, whenever he's not there, they don't make as much money. When it's just the dad and their salespeople, they don't make as much money. So that means that there is a value that he is potentially creating. And we're able to formalize that. Being a branch manager at ABC Limited Company, ABC and Sons Company, and of course, these are the impact. This is my role as the branch manager, oversee operations, whatever. And these are the things that I have kind of achieved in that role. And for this, now when he went for interview, those things are real. When you ask him real questions, he can answer because they are experience that he's had in his father's business. The only thing is that he's not going to call it his father's business, right? Because we formalize that. So it's very important that you understand all of these things. So, like I did mention, no one is going to come to you to ask you to explain what you have in your CV. And so clarity should be your number one priority. Clarity shortens the application journey for you and reduces wasted effort, thereby leading to clear funding. And I know you might be asking, like, how does that happen? Let's go through what this actually means, right? And now we have a first thing that says that a successful graduate application requires a clear roadmap with clarity on your academic and career goals to build a personalized pathway from where you are today to where you are headed for tomorrow. Okay. So the first thing I wanted us to look at in this CV of a thing, or generally, not just CV, I think this is more of the general material that you need for your application. Why you need a graduate roadmap? You need a graduate roadmap, right? Is because one, it provides you with clarity. Clarity follows structure, not chance. So your application should not, don't leave it to chance. Okay. People understand your CV because the CV is structured, because it's clear, and you've actually been able to sell yourself right there. Don't put things together and say, may God help me. This thing that people usually say a lot. Clarity comes first before success, right? And then you need to also, when you think about your roadmap, you need to think of it as momentum driving direction being driven by momentum. Okay. So if you are headed uphill, you need to apply a lot of momentum to be able to actually overcome that. So that means that if there are some obstacles in your career path, you need to do much more in order to actually surmount them. So once you do that much more, your path to success becomes clearer, right? So that means that you are having a very clear direction, which in turn turns your ambition into actionable insights that you can use to prepare a competitive application. So direction will always drive momentum. Then your map to mastery. When you are preparing all of these documents, you need to think about the vision, which ties back to what I was asking in the beginning about your career objective, about what you want to do after you finish your master's. That needs to be clear to you. Even if it's not clear, you need to define it as if it's clear. That is the vision. People want to like key into your vision. All right. So it's the same way when a scholarship body is giving you a scholarship, it's because they have keyed into your vision. It's not because they pity you. Trust me. Even the scholarship that are need based, that will tell you that you need to have financial constraint before you can get this. They still consider your vision. They still consider your chances of surviving or succeeding. If you've not shown anything, if you've shown that you always use less opportunities that are given to you, no matter how much you need that scholarship, it will not be given to you. So you need to be able to build your vision. Let that your vision align with the program of interest and, of course, the scholarship. Once you have that alignment, the next thing is a clear path for you to execute this vision and this alignment. And then definitely what you have precipitating out of this is success. So when you think about your graduate roadmap, the three things that needs to come to your mind is the clarity, the momentum that you need, and then the mastery of the application process. If you have those three things sorted out, then you have a clear roadmap to success. So always understand that. Clarity, your direction and momentum that you're applying in that, and of course, your vision. So once you have that articulated, and we can give a typical examples, using, for instance, Elvis' case. Elvis already seems to have clarity that he wants to do a master's in business administration. And after that, he wants to work in top firm because he wants to prepare himself to actually run his own business. The only thing that is missing there is it just you learning the ropes, or is there an additional contribution you want to make? So I have not seen the additional contribution that he wants to make. But once he's able to add that, he has a clear roadmap to success. Now you move into, because you need to have that first before you move into crafting that vision. You move into it. When you move into crafting that vision, you need to define the end goal. Okay? This then ties back to why I was asking, after the master's, what? If you're not able to define the end goal, it will be extremely difficult for you to convince the scholarship body or even the admission body. that you are the person they should go for. Okay. So here I've written, I say, define your long-term career goal. Where do you want your graduate degree to take you? Okay. Elvis wants his to take him to top firms. Why that is a valid vision, a valid objective, that shouldn't be the way you tell admission body that. So you need to identify top problems that these top firms are facing to start with. So that when you say that your destination is to this top firm, it's not just because you feel like you want to get the prestige or earn high salary. No, but because you understand that this top firm have more significant impact in the world around us. Because they are huge, they produce XYZ, which a whole lot of people use it. There is something. They are top firm for a reason. They are top firm because what they do it well, and they serve a lot of people. They are not top firm because they just do all manner of rubbish and serve fewer people. No, that's not the reason. So you need to be able to clearly demonstrate what problem you are going to be helping these guys solve. So, or what you are going to be doing there. That is different from what every other person there is going to be doing. Now, once you then define that end goal, your end goal needs to align with the program. So when we talk about your program fit, there are two things that allow the admission body and scholarship body to judge whether you are a fit for that program. One is your past experience, and two is your end goal. Now, a supervisor, for instance, for a PhD person, is going to start asking, do you have the required skill set to make you an independent researcher in my laboratory for those in science? Right? So that question will always be there. Or even if you don't have the required skills, do you have complementary skills or transferable skills that can help you to actually start your PhD program and end it in my laboratory without any problem, with little or no supervision? Now, once the answer is yes, that you possess that skill, the next thing is the thing that you said you want to do after this program. Does the experience you get from this program prepare you for that? If the answer is yes, it's a perfect program fit. Okay, it's a perfect program fit. And then the next thing under crafting your personal vision is then the geographical choice. Because sometimes you have this vision, you want to build an AI technology, but yet you want to travel down to Ghana to do a master's. Make that make sense. It doesn't, right? And then you want to do something in robotics or quantum information processing. You look at places like Japan, US, UK is probably not too big in quantum information processing. But these are the things that you need to check. Don't go to a country because a lot of people are going there. Go there because you have a vision, you have a goal, you have a career objective, and there is opportunity in that country that matches what you are looking for. So you need to be able to, if you do not sit down and make this research and identify all of this, it will show up in your interviews. It will show up in your interview that you are not prepared, that you are not ready. So you must make this research and prepare yourself even before you get started. Select up to 3 countries, right? And then when you are building your roadmap and you are crafting your personal vision, when you have thought about your end goal, your current skill set, your program fit, Once you mention program fit, I've told you the things that you need to kind of judge whether you fit into that program. Once you mention program fit, automatically you will be able to identify the gap you have. So that then takes us to the gap to growth framework. Okay. What do you now do? You first of all carry out what we call self-audit. You assess your academic qualification or profile. You assess your experience, the experience that you have, and how ready you are for that graduate program. Doing that allows you to then identify the skill gap that you have. That will then lead you to skill upgrade. What do you need to do? Once you've identified the missing skills or some scores that you didn't make from your academic thing, or some experiences that you think could boost your chances, then you move into the growth plan. Okay, where you then set your timeline and then some little tiny targets of what you need to do. It doesn't have to be that glamorous. Make a publication in Nature newspaper or in Nature platform or whatever. No, just those tiny. In the next 1 month, I want to get this certification exam. I want to learn about how to use Tableau. In the next 2 weeks, I want to study how to use Power BI for business intelligence. In the next 1 month or so, I want to understand the business landscape in America. And what do I do? Maybe have subscription to Financial Times, maybe go online and find CNN business, whatever it is, right? Find business columns, follow what is happening with general business portfolios in Nigeria, like stock markets in the US, in UK, wherever it is, right? Whether it's um, all manner of asset that you can trade, whether you are looking at what companies are trading and trying to interpret why Tesla is valued the way it's valued today. What are the financials saying? And how does that kind of correlate with what the market is saying about Tesla? Right. So those things begin to build your curiosity to be able to have business conversations. Right. My background is in science, but today, when I discuss stock markets, when I discuss about the global market and the politics that shape that global market, like you would think that actually what I studied is business. I did business related program in school. Okay, I didn't, but I ventured into consulting world at some point. And before I was able to get my feet into that consulting world, I had to understand the concepts around businesses and how things works, right? So that is me trying to prepare a growth plan at that point before venturing into the business world. All right. So there are different things you can do. You can take up courses, do some projects, carry out some research, and all that. But in general, when you are doing this gap to growth thing, there's a framework we use. We call it the 5-step global admission framework. So the first thing, you set your goal. That is the end goal that I talked about, right? Then you identify the gap you have to get to that end goal. Once you've identified, you put up a plan to close up that gap. And of course, while you are doing that, seek guidance. There's nothing so powerful as counseling and mentorship. There are people who have gone through that. There are people who have shared experiences. There are people who have supported other people to go through that same experience. Seek their guidance. And once you do, believe me, your chances of graduate admission success increases like with a very steep increase, not a gradual increase, a very steep increase. Okay, so I think I'm going to. I thought I would have started the CV because we needed to look at sample CVs, right? But I'm going to stop here. And before I stop, just to answer one question, and then in the afternoon from 3, we can continue the other side. Before I stop, I just wanted to ask if money and geography were not barrier, what field of study would you go for? Why? And again, Evie, sorry, the other folks are having internet. I think it's even your own benefit that we are using your specific experience to lead the conversation. So just sorry, if money and geography were not a barrier, what field would you study and why? Will you still remain with business, or would there be something else?
If money and geography wasn't a barrier, yeah, I would still remain in business.
And why?
I, I've just had this passion for I think it helps me interact with people more. And then, since you said the money outside money, the next thing is being providing value for persons. Being able to provide value for persons. So, and I think that can be achieved for me through business. So that's the reason why I'm still venturing into business.
Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot of this slide and share it on the WhatsApp group because it has the assignment that I needed from everyone before next Saturday's meeting, not before the next session, because you won't have time to do that. And that is the assignment, the one down. That is just to draft a one-page graduate roadmap, including 3 universities, 2 skills to acquire, and 1 mentor to reach out to. Because, like I told you guys, we need to be able to use this moment to actually start making frank effort to make that your application. So it's not just um, talking and not doing anything. I want us to be able to do this. By the end of the afternoon session, we would have covered CV, SOP, and scholarship aces, right? And once we cover that, one of the things, you will look at your CV and see if there is a way to update that CV. You will look at, um, of course, here we've said the reason I'm giving you this assignment is for you to identify the universities that you want to. I want to see those universities so that we can then use that to build into the conversation we have next week. We can get some of the things you need to know about those universities, how to make successful application to them, their scholarship that are available to those universities. We'll be able to support you with those information if you submit this. But if you don't submit this, we won't be able to do that. So that you can actually get real support to make real application to those universities of choice. Okay, I'm going to stop here and happy to take any question, any last comments. But if not, let me give you guys some time to catch your breath, and then we can come back at 3 p.m. Um, to continue and then wrap up the document preparation.
Sorry, I do have one question, Mr. David. I didn't get you rightly. When you said 3 things, first of all, you have to build a vision, then align it with a program or scholarship. Then you said you mentioned the third thing, but
And your
I didn't.
end goal. All right. Okay, then. Thank you guys, and thanks, Elvis, for being active in the session.